Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in our series, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Great Expectations. As to anything I say, he insisted, the oath applies to all. I understand it to do so. And looky here. Whatever I had done is worked out and paid for, he insisted again. So be it. He took out his black pipe and was going to fill it with blackhead, when, looking at the tangle of tobacco in his hand, he seemed to think it might perplex the thread of his narrative. He put it back again, stuck his pipe in a buttonhole of his coat, spread a hand on each knee, and, after returning an angry eye on the fire for a few silent moments, looked round at us and said what follows. Chapter 42. Dear boy and Pip's comrade, I'm not going far to tell you my life like a song or storybook, but to give it to you short and handy. I'll put it at once into a mouthful of English. In jail and out of jail. In jail and out of jail. In jail and out of jail. There, you got it. That's my life pretty much, down to such times as I got shipped off. Arter Pip stood my friend. I've been done everything too, pretty well, except hanged. I've been locked up, as much as a silver tea kettle. I've been carted here, and carted there, and put out of this town, and put out of that town, and stuck in the stocks, and whipped and worried and drove. I've no more notion where I was born than you have, if so much. I first become aware of myself down in Essex, a thieving turnips for my living. Some of 'em had run away from me, a man, a tinker, and he took the fire with him and left me very cold. I knowed my name to be Magwitch, christened Abel. How did I know it? Much as I knowed the birds' names in the hedges to be chaffinch, sparrow, thrush. I might have thought it was all lies together, only as the birds' names come out true. I supposed mine did. So far as I could find, there weren't a soul that see young Abel Magwitch, with us little on him as in him, but what caught fright at him, and either drove him off, or took him up. I was took up, to that extent that I regularly growed up to took up. This is the way it was, that when I was ragged little creature, as much to be pitied as ever I see, not that I looked in the glass, for there weren't many insides of furnished houses known to me, I got the name of being hardened. This is a terrible hardened one, they says to prison visitors, picking out me. May be said to live in jails, this boy. Then they looked at me, and I looked at them. And they measured my head, some on 'em. They had better measured my stomach, and the others on 'em give me tracts what I couldn't read, and made me speeches what I couldn't understand. They always went on again me about the devil. But what the devil was I to do? I must put something into my stomach, mustn't I? Howsoever I'm a-getting low, and I know what's due. Dear boy and Pip's comrade, don't you be afeard of me being low. Tramping, begging, thieving, working, sometimes when I could, though that weren't often as you may think, till you put the question whether you would have been over ready to give me work yourselves. A bit of a poacher, a bit of a labourer, a bit of a wagoner, a bit of a haymaker, a bit of a hawker, a bit of most things that don't pay and lead to trouble. I got to be a man, a deserting soldier in a traveller's rest, what lay hid up to the chin under a lot of taters, learned me to read, and a travelling giant what signed his name at a penny, a time learnt me to write. I weren't locked up as often now as formerly, but I wore out my good share of keen metal still. At Epsom races, a matter of over 20 years ago, I got acquainted with a man whose skull I'd crack with this poker, like the claw of a lobster, if I'd got it on this hob. His right name was Compeyson, and that's the man, dear boy, what you see me a-pounding in the ditch. According to what you truly told your comrade Arthur, I was gone last night. He set up for a gentleman, this Compeyson, and he'd been to a public boarding school and had learning. He was a smooth one to talk, and was a dab at the ways of gentlefolks. He was good-looking, too. It was the night afore the great race, when I found him on the heath, in a booth that I knowed on. Him and some more was a-setting among the tables when I went in, and the landlord, which had a knowledge of me, and was a sporting one, called him out, and said, "I think this is a man that might suit you," meaning I was. Compeyson, he looks at me very noticing, and I look at him. He has a watch and a chain, and a ring, and a breastpin, and a handsome suit of clothes. "To judge from appearances, you're out of luck," says Compeyson to me. "Yes, master, and I've never been in it much. I had come out of Kingston jail last on a vagrancy committal, not but what might have been for something else, but it weren't." "Luck changes," says Compeyson. "Perhaps yours is going to change." I says, I hope it may so, maybe so. "There's room." "What can you do?" says Compeyson. "Eat and drink," I says, "if you find the materials." Compeyson laughed, looked at me again very noticing, give me 5 shillings, and appointed me for next night, same place. I went to Compeyson next night, same place, and Compeyson took me on to be his man and partner. And what was Compeyson's business in which we was to go partners? Compeyson's business was the swindling, handwriting, forging, stolen banknote passing, and such like. All sorts of traps as Compeyson could set with his head, and keep his own legs out of, and get the profits from, and let another man in for, was Compeyson's business. He'd no more heart than an iron file. He was as cold as death, and he had the head of the devil aforementioned. There was another in with Compeyson, as was called Arthur, not as being so christened, but as a surname. He was in a decline, and was a shadow to look at. Him and Compeyson had been in a bad thing with a rich lady some years before, and they'd made a pot of money by it. But Compeyson betted and gamed, and he'd have run through the king's taxes. So Arthur was a-dying poor, and with the horrors on him, and Compeyson's wife, which Compeyson kicked mostly, was a-having pity on him when she could, and Compeyson was a-having pity on nothing and nobody. I might have took warning by Arthur, but I didn't, and I won't pretend I was a part-licker, for where would be the good on it, my dear boy and comrade? So I begun with Compeyson, and a poor tool I was in his hands. Arthur lived at the top of Compeyson's house, over nigh in Brentford it was, and Compeyson kept a careful account agent for him for board and lodging, in case he should ever get better to work it out. But Arthur soon settled the account. The second or third time as I ever see him, he come a-tearing down into Compeyson's parlour late at night, in only a flannel gown, with his hair all in a sweat, and he says to Compeyson's wife, "Sally, she really is upstairs along of me, now, and I can't get rid of her. She's all in white," he says, white flowers in her hair, and she's awful mad, and she's got a shroud hanging over her arm, and she says she'll put it on me at 5 in the morning. Says Compeyson, why, you fool, don't you know she's got a living body? And how should she be up there, without coming through the door, or in at the window, and up the stair? I don't know how she's there, says Arthur, shivering dreadful with the horrors. But she's standing in the corner at the foot of the bed, awful mad, and over where her heart broke, you broke it, there's drops of blood. Compeyson spoke hardy, but he was always a coward. Go up alonger this drivelling sick man, he says to his wife. And Magwitch, lend her a hand, will you? But he never come nigh himself. We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.